former head of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or otherwise known as ATIP, which was the Pentagon's UFO office like 3, programs ago. Famously in the 2017 New York Times article, right? And Luis Elizondo, everyone has been expecting his book and a brand new documentary that is going to be coming out. Well, we have an update, more or less exactly when all of this is going to be coming out, and something that could be in the book that will honestly be a blockbuster revelation if it's true. So I've got some details on that. And let's dive in, right? So who is saying all this? Well, his lawyer, Danny Sheehan. Now, we've covered Danny Sheehan on this channel many times. And he says a lot of things that are pretty far out there, if you ask me. Not saying I don't believe him. I'm not saying I do believe him. I don't know. But, he's interesting to listen to. So, yeah, he went on this podcast and he said a lot. And in fact, tomorrow I'm going to cover some other things that he said because I just couldn't get it all into this video, to be honest with you. And tomorrow's video is going to be interesting. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, this video, I thought this was great. Updates about Luis Elizondo. And again, this blockbuster revelation. So let's jump in and find out exactly what this is all about. If you're new to the channel and you like content like this, please hit the subscribe button, y'all. We put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day. And of course, hit that like button, y'all. That really helps us out. So thank y'all so much for the support there. And of course, comment down below of what you think about this new book of Luis Elizondo, this new documentary that's going to come out. And what do you think of this blockbuster revelation that could potentially change how we view Luis Elizondo, right? So let's dive in, y'all. All right, got this queued up. He's going to first ask him about Luis Elizondo. Then I've got a second clip, okay, of Dr. Steven Greer talking about Luis Elizondo, and that is what is interesting. So, but this is also interesting. Let's find out about Luis Elizondo's book, his documentary. This is supposed to be coming a long time now, y'all. Years. This was supposed to come out literally 2.5 years ago. So here we go.
You've probably been asked it a lot. When should we expect Luis Elizondo's book to be released? At least a kind of, can you give us at least a rough idea of when we should expect that, or ideally an exact release date? But
6 weeks.
6 weeks from now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in the final stages now of being cleared by the Defense Department in final little edits that need to be made. But they're limited. And it'll be made available. And there's going to be a video, a major documentary that's going to be coming out also that Lou has been working on, and other people have been working on this to try to have a major coming forward with more information about this. And it'll start happening in about 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, wow. So I've heard from some people that are not so public about this documentary, that they're in this documentary, they're working on it, and that they're going to be a bit more public after that. The book. So you think the book is likely to be released in what, like mid-March, something like that?
Well, it'll be cleared. It'll be cleared by the Defense Department and the intelligence agencies, and it's ready to go to press. In light of the new technology, with the computers, they can get this out fairly quickly after that. So my sense is that in March 21st, which is basically the spring solstice.
Yeah.
That is ought to be the time when this ought to start coming forward or so.
Hang on.
Awesome. Can't wait.
So Danny Sheehan, like, they got this new technology, computers, like. Oh, that was funny. It'll be ready for release, and then, they got this new technology, computers. I don't know if you've heard of them, but that's really going to help with the release of the book after that. They're on a computer. That was hilarious. I'm sure it was just misspeaking, and I do stuff like that too. My friends would roast me right away if I said something like that. So that's all it is, all in good fun. But that's interesting. So it'll be cleared for release in 6 weeks. That doesn't mean it will be, they've got to press the book, right? So once it's cleared, then they know what text is in it, and then they can finally start printing the book. Now, granted, they could have digital copies ready to go more than likely pretty soon. If you know when more or less that's coming, those publishers will get ready. I have worked with lots of authors on my other podcast, Lone Star Plate, when their books are coming out and they come on to do promotion about their books and stuff. I've done that a lot, and that's basically how that'll work. So I know that they'll be, because the editors also make changes, just like Dopser, right? You've got editors at these publishing houses, dude, they are just as equally rigid about what goes in the book as well. So there could be a possibility that after the Dopser release, the editor is going to want to take a look at this and go back and forth with Luis Elizondo as well. Now, what they presented to Dopser, right, the publisher would already know, and they could have already made those changes with the editor as well, right? There's just a lot here. It just depends. But I don't see the book just being ready, right, in 6 weeks' time, unless it just comes sooner or whatever. I mean, I guess more or less probably 6 to 12 weeks would be my guess, right? So sometime before the summer is my guess that this book and the documentary will come out. At least the book. The documentary, I don't know anything about that. I've heard stuff about it just in different podcasts and different things, right? But no real like details, just that it'll be interesting. I'm sure a lot of the stuff that's in the book will probably end up in this documentary. Now, let's get to this revelation, because if what I'm about to show you is true, this would change a lot. So what am I talking about? Let's dive in. Just listen carefully to Dr. Steven Greer here. He is going to look right here. He is going to talk about Luis Elizondo having been in a facility where an ET craft was stored. So he's been on the grounds, Luis Elizondo, of a UFO, just like, you know, right there in the same place he's at. Let's get more details. He also says something else very interesting about Luis Elizondo, and I'm curious to get everyone's opinion.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Steven Greer. I'm joining you from my home out in the Blue Ridge Mountains outside Charlottesville, Virginia, near the university.
Real quick, should have said this before. Danny Sheehan, that guy you just saw with the white hair and everything, right? He used to represent this guy right here, Dr. Steven Greer, right? Originally for the Disclosure Project. Then he starts representing Luis Elizondo. Now, why would that be a big deal? Lawyers have clients all the time. Well, you're about to find out why there's something to that. Here you go.
Virginia. And this is an update, sort of urgent. Many of you may have seen recently that the Disclosure Project pro bono attorney, Daniel Sheehan, who did the Pentagon Papers, Iran-Contra, the Silkwood case, and many others, is now working with Luis Elizondo. And so a lot of people are very confused on what's going on, since, of course, everyone on this call probably knows Luis Elizondo is a professional disinformation agent putting out false intelligence about the UFO matter in through the mainstream media. The reason...
So, real quick, right? I'm going to play the rest of this. I'm not trying to interrupt, but right, he's saying that Luis Elizondo, just right off the bat, you know, and saying everyone in the chat knows, right, he's a disinformation agent. So, right, so let's break that down. He had, and this video is from 2021, by the way, right? So this is not recent. But so, right, Dr. Steven Greer has a lawyer, Danny Sheehan, working with the Disclosure Project. Then that lawyer decides to start working with Luis Elizondo, and Steven Greer's like, well, what are you doing? You know, that guy's a disinformation agent. Now, how does he know he's a information agent? And again, he has information about Luis Elizondo. Dr. Steven Greer does, which is interesting. So again, here we go.
Mr. Sheehan is doing this. We've had a long discussion about it going back 2 or 3 weeks, is that Luis Elizondo approached him to help him with his legal case because the Pentagon was about to pull his security clearances. And it wasn't because he was doing things with TTSA that they wanted him to do that. It was because he had resigned from TTSA, fallen out with the people that were the hardliners wanting him to present that there was an alien threat or a threat to the national security. And he has told two people on my team, including attorney Daniel Sheehan, that he knows, and the other people like Chris Mellon know, that there is no such thing as an alien threat, that there is not a threat to the national security, but that's the only way they can get this in front of the American people to get more overt funding for the Space Force and eventually a conflict with these extraterrestrial civilizations. He has flat out said he knows that everything he's been saying about this being a threat is untrue. Now, Daniel Sheehan has also shared, and this is even more explosive, that Luis Elizondo has informed him that he, in fact, has been in a facility where an actual extraterrestrial vehicle was stored. Now, why is that important? Because he's all over the news, 60 Minutes, every mainstream news channel, along with his other cohorts in the cover-up, such as Leslie Keene, Nick Pope, Chris Mellon, and others, saying that we don't know what these are. Now, interestingly, he absolutely knows that some of these craft are, in fact, of extraterrestrial origin. He must also then know that some of them are ours. For example, the recent Jeremy Corbell interview on Fox News, where they were showing these triangles swarming, menacing our Navy ships. Every one of those pyramid triangular-shaped objects with the flashing light on them are from either Northrop Grumman or Boeing or the Lockheed, most likely Northrop Grumman. Those are man-made UFOs. They're anti-gravity vehicles. Everyone in the aerospace industry at any level of clearance knows this. So this is a big problem. So I told Mr. Sheehan, I said, look, you have to be very careful. If you're going to work with this gentleman, you have to understand that he is a master of disinformation. I am quoting from a senior CIA official who wrote me about this when they first emerged after Unacknowledged came out in 2017. And of course, Daniel Sheehan knows this. He told me point blank, yes, we know this. The main reason he's working with him is to represent him and to get him to come clean. So it's a very interesting strategy. What Daniel Sheehan is trying to do is to get Luis Elizondo and then perhaps after him some of the others to actually admit that they know that there is not a threat from the UFOs and that they have been coerced into doing so. Recently on the internet, on a YouTube interview that's now been taken down, Daniel Sheehan admitted that there was an inspector general of the Pentagon had been pulled in to look into complaints from Luis Elizondo at the insistence of Daniel Sheehan about him being threatened with loss of his security clearance not because he was disclosing classified material, but because he went off the leash and was not wanting to continue to say the falsehood that these were an alien threat. And I think in large part because Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which exposes that as an absolute bold-faced lie, has now been seen by millions and millions of people, and it's one of the top trending documentaries on Amazon Prime and elsewhere. So what is happening here, just so people get clear, is it is not that Daniel Sheehan has defected to the dark side or anything like that. He's trying to encourage Luis Elizondo, and I think by extension some of these others, to in fact defect from the disinformation and lies that they have been saying in the mainstream media, up on Capitol Hill, and in other places about this subject. The two very big lies that they're
So, very interesting, right? Let's go over a lot of things Steven Greer said there, right? First, he says that Luis Elizondo is a disinformation agent. He is saying, allegedly, right, that, well, he's saying it, Steven Greer is saying like he knows it, right? But I'm just saying I'm not saying this, okay? I'm repeating what Steven Greer said. He's a disinformation agent. He's telling a lie about this alien threat narrative, right, so that they can get funding from the government. Otherwise, why would you need it? And that some of these UFOs that are flying around are our own reverse engineered craft, that we've gotten from these aliens, right? That we've reverse engineered their craft and we're flying them around too, and they're being confused. So basically the UFOs are a mix of human and non-human craft flying around. Like we're flying around together, like Top Gun Maverick up there, I guess. I don't know. But he's also saying that Daniel Sheehan knows this about Luis Elizondo, but is sort of playing double agent and is trying to convince Luis Elizondo to come clean. And maybe the other people to come clean, please, and tell us the truth, right, about what you're doing. So keep your friends close, enemies closer. Is that Daniel Sheehan's strategy? And then on top of that, right, he's saying that Luis Elizondo told him that he went to a facility where an ET craft was stored. Now, Daniel Sheehan won't confirm any of that. He's been asked, but he says attorney-client privilege. You can't talk about it. But I guess he told Dr. Steven Greer, and Dr. Steven Greer just, blabbed it away. It's not like Daniel Sheehan has said, no, what Steven Greer said is incorrect. He has not said that. So I don't know. But one of the reasons that Daniel Sheehan said, hey, attorney-client privilege, and he wanted to make clear that, hey, Luis Elizondo has never revealed classified information to me. But let's be real, that would be classified, and apparently he did, Luis Elizondo. If this is true, then Luis Elizondo revealed classified information to his lawyer, Daniel Sheehan, who then relayed that information to Dr. Steven Greer. Now, was that part of disinformation to see if Steven Greer would repeat that? Could have been. What if Luis Elizondo and Daniel Sheehan had a talk, and he was like, hey, man, I don't know if we can trust this guy. Here, go put out this story to Steven Greer and see what he says, see what he does. I'll show you that he's actually the one you need to be worried about, not me. That's possible. Because there is a divide, y'all, in the UFO community. This is the biggest one. You've got Dr. Steven Greer and his side of what they're saying, and Luis Elizondo, Chris Mellon, right? And then I think you even have like Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, and they somehow connect here and there. But Dr. Steven Greer is his own thing. And again, he thinks all of that's a lie. He has just a completely different idea of what's going on. I don't know. Makes it very difficult for us as, just normal people trying to figure out what's going on, right? That's why you shouldn't get caught up in the who. It should just be the what, like looking down, like, okay, what's the evidence? I don't need to look at you. Where's the stuff you brought to prove what you're saying? Like, let's look at that. Where's the evidence, right? If you show an ET craft and an alien body, none of this matters. None of this, I don't know. So I don't know. It's quite interesting. But that would be a bombshell revelation if that does come out in the book that Luis Elizondo has been in a facility where an ET craft was stored. That does change his story, right? He's always said, I believe the U.S. is in possession of exotic material. Now, that could mean he was at this facility and he was told there was a craft here, but he never saw the craft, but he was told that, right? So that's why he says, I believe we're in possession of exotic material. That could be why that answer is, right? And he's always said in interviews, I don't think we're alone, right? And he says there's a lot more stuff to come out, photos, videos, stuff that's, whatever. And I've seen in another interview on the Merge podcast with Ryan Graves and Commander David Fravor, they did an interview in the summer, and at the very, very literally the last minute of the interview, as they're saying goodbye, Commander David Fravor brings up to Ryan Graves, hey, we're both in this documentary coming out, and it's got the best 4K footage you've ever seen. This is the documentary. This is going to change everything, right? That's kind of how he kind of says it. I mean, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but pretty much that's a gist of it. And, I don't know what else it could be. James Fox's? That's possible. But they're close with Luis Elizondo, those guys. Ryan Graves and Commander David Fravor. Right? So I just imagine it's that, but I don't know. Again, is this revelation about the ET craft that Luis Elizondo visited this facility? Is that going to be in the documentary as well? Is it just a book? Is it an accompanying thing, or is it completely separate? Right? I don't know. The book, is this book like the Luis Elizondo story? Is that what this book is? Right? Like an autobiography? It pretty much is. Because I've spoken with a person in Luis Elizondo's management a couple of years ago when I was trying to get an interview with Luis Elizondo. And that's basically it, right? This guy got the bidding rights, and it was one of the highest bids, like, for a book in a long time, like hit Luis Elizondo's story. Like, there was a lot of money to get his story. Like, they were fighting over it. So I'm just saying, you know. And yeah, it's all coming out in a book and a documentary. And, you know, again, could Luis Elizondo have told this stuff before and testify? I don't know. I don't know. I know some of y'all are going to be like, well, wait to put it out in a book, in a documentary. And I understand your sentiment. Okay. I feel you. I do. I get you. I totally understand. But, you know, just to play devil's advocate, I mean, I could see Luis Elizondo's side. Hey, man, I want to put my story. Everyone's telling my story and getting money. Why can't I get some? I don't see, you know what I mean? If no one was making money and then he was like, hey, man, that would be different. But that's not what's happening. You know, take, for instance, Luis Elizondo will go on a podcast. That podcast will get millions of views. He doesn't get any of it. I've heard him say that in an interview, and they've talked about it. Kurt, any super chats that get put in and stuff like that, like, dude, that gets you tens of thousands of dollars, right? That these creators will earn from having Luis Elizondo on. And what is, you know, what do you have to do? Basically just kind of play the game with Luis Elizondo, right? Don't ask anything too difficult, right? If you want access, that's what I was told, right? Like, if you want an interview with them, you've got to go down a certain road. So if you're going down the road of questioning him, you're not going to get that interview. If you're going down the road of, yeah, just here, I'll ask you a question and you use my platform to say whatever you want. That's basically what happens. And that happens a lot in these UFO podcasts, y'all. They come on and just use the creator completely. They just use their platform to say whatever they want. And the creator just, you know, whatever. And to some extent, I get it, you know. But then that podcast becomes not about the podcaster, right? It just becomes about the guests that come on, and forget the podcast. What does he matter? You know, that's why I like conversations over interviews. I really do. I used to say that on the Lone Star Plate. Like, I don't do interviews. I have conversations because I like to jump into. I want to talk. I want to go back and forth. And I've had some amazing conversations on that podcast, you know, done hundreds of them on there with all kinds of people from all walks of life. That's what I miss about the Lone Star Plate, to be honest with you, doing that, was that, you know, scientists, authors, actors, directors, you know, models, singers, right? Just bands, you know, you name it. All kinds of cool people, man. Poets, you know, professors, just all kinds of people. It was great, right? And you just have these like amazing conversations about whatever their thing is, their field is. And I learned a lot, to be honest with you. I learned that I can pretty much have a conversation with anybody about any topic, to be honest with you. I may not be smart about it, but I'll find a way. But anyway, that happens on these podcasts, man, right? They kind of just go on to promote some stuff. And, you know, I'm not dogging any content creators or podcast hosts out there, okay? It's their stuff. It's their content and their channel, and they can do whatever they want, man. That's because I do what I want, right? So they should, you know, do whatever they want. But I don't know. Daniel Sheehan doing all these interviews of late, he just says so much in these interviews, right? He just drops these things that are just like huge, life-changing comments, just like off the cuff, and that's odd to me. I don't know, but again, if you deal with it so much, I guess it just becomes like talking about sports, you know? So I can understand that too. Now, tomorrow's video, give you a little preview, a little taste. Basically, Daniel Sheehan has said that 40 whistleblowers are going to be coming forward, okay, this year. This year. He also talked about the alien interview video, right, that I've covered on this channel, okay? Some of you may not know about that, but tune in tomorrow and I'll tell you more about it. So, yeah, he's kind of changed his story a little bit there. So, anyway, tomorrow's video should be interesting. We're going to dive deep into that. And, yeah, Daniel Sheehan, man. We're going to find out more about these 40 whistleblowers coming over. Who? First hand, second hand, third, like when? What's going on? So we'll get into all that tomorrow. Again, I'll put a link in the description to this interview if you want to check it out. And this clip as well from Steven Greer. So you can link into that. And yeah, just curious to hear everyone's comments, right, about Steven Greer's statements about Luis Elizondo and Daniel Sheehan and that whole thing, right? And Daniel Sheehan talking about Luis Elizondo's book and the documentary. Look, I'm going to read the book. I'm going to watch the documentary. I know a lot of people are. Luis Elizondo is going to make a lot of money from that. And I think, I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't really care. I really don't. I don't really care. I think a lot of people, it doesn't make what he's saying any less true or not true, right? So I don't know. I don't know. At this point, it doesn't really bother me. Just want to see the stuff. Just want to see what it is. What are they talking about? So yeah, y'all tell me in the comments. What do y'all think? Curious to read y'all's thoughts on that. Yeah. So we'll see. But at least before summer, that is my guess. So, all right, vetters. We'll see you guys on tomorrow's video, again, about Daniel Sheehan. That should be interesting. We're going to dive into that. Very excited. Now, unless just something crazy happens between now and the next time I record another video, that it will be the video, the Daniel Sheehan. But unless something crazy happens and I got to put out another video, I don't know. Aliens land tomorrow. That would take precedent. So, all right. So unless we get full disclosure, that's the video we're getting. All right, y'all. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. We do not miss a video, guys, any day. I don't. So, anyway, thanks, y'all. See you tomorrow.